So first of all, I'd like to acknowledge the fact that we are attending this event in land that belongs to the traditional custodians and people that have been in Australia much longer than ourselves. I pay my respect to the elders, past and present, and extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people that may join us today. Today, we are going to talk about low code, and the agenda for today is to, first of all, start with an overview of what exactly coding is. If we're going to expect what not coding is, we need to understand first what coding is. Then talk about what no and low code platforms are and what they mean for us, normal people. And then a little bit about what can be done and whether I can become rich or not, building my idea up to life using low code tools or platforms. And then the most important and most interesting part of the conversation will start, which is Lara Chan-Baker doing a presentation of what tools she uses herself to do her work and also to make her personal life more efficient. I won't introduce Lara yet until we get to that point. We'll give her a chance to relax for a few minutes, and then we'll get into her presentation. And finally, we'll wrap up the subject, maybe tie up a few loose ends, do a few more comments, and finally open the floor for questions and answers. Myself, Pedro Chan, I collaborate with Exatec in the area of technology and in the area of liaison with other communities, mostly Mexican communities that live in Australia. I will talk more about Exatec towards the end of the presentation, so we can dig straight into the topic, and then later we'll get into what Exatec is and what it does. So what exactly is coding? We all use computers every single day, whether we like it or not, or whether we know it or not. We have them in our smart devices, in our telephones, in our TVs, in light bulbs that can be controlled over Wi-Fi. Our cars have had computers for a very long time. Watches, tablets, microwaves, fridges, these dreaded thermometers that people are using at the moment for us to get into shops and schools. Obviously, code exists in our favorite applications like Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, etc., etc. So code is all around us. There are a million, actually, to be precise, there were 880,000 definitions of code when I looked in Google. And I picked one of them at random because all of them are very similar, which is code is a set of instructions that we provide to a computer that computer can then follow and render a result that we want, right? Depending on where that computer is embedded, where that computer is connected to, we obtain a different result. But the code is the series of instructions that we give to the computer, so the computer can run certain processes and execute certain tasks, right? It is not too dissimilar to having a person, an assistant, a person that helps you, working for you, and you tell them you do this, then you do that, then you put some information here, then you open this door, then you do that. It's exactly what we do with the computers, except that most of the tasks that we are asking them to do have to do with moving memory from one place to another, moving data from one place to another, and then doing something with that data, right? The key word here, I guess, when talking about coding is the fact that it's normally done in a programming language, right? So somebody knows how that computer or what set of instructions that computer understands, and then is able to create a list of those instructions and feed them into the computer, so the computer executes the code, basically. Yeah. Just a very quick overview on the history of code and to understand better how we got up to today. So as many of you know, computers understand, at least in the basic form. Now there are computers that understand more than this, but in the basic form, they understand ones and zeros. So I said they're unos or nadas. It's basically a set of switches that a computer understands. This is on, this is off. And if it is on, I do this. If it is off, I do that, right? And in the past, that programming of ones and zeros used to be done mechanically through switches and through cables that would be plugged and unplugged from the computer. Later on, there was the appearance of assembly languages. Assembly language is something that turns those numbers, those ones and zeros, into codes that are slightly easier to understand, right? So we have a certain code for add, a certain code for compare, a certain code for jumping from one place to another within the code, etc. So it was language that was, or rather not even a language yet, it was a set of codes that very, very clever people would either type into, punch into a card, into a paper card, or they would program directly into a microchip using specific devices. And that way they could program this computer or this microchip to do certain tasks, right? Which could be just simply control of some lighting or some mechanical process, or something more like in the computing basis, mathematical and scientific research, right? Later on, there was this amazing and fantastic idea, and that was a big jump in this history of computing, which is, why don't we write code in English that we can actually, as humans, understand? We can understand much better what the different steps of a process are, and then have a computer program turn that language into the assembly language that the computer will understand, right? Which ultimately will become the ones and zeros that the computer understands. So that's when languages such as COBOL and Fortran and other similar languages appeared, and that allowed humans a much quicker way of designing programs, which made the programs a lot more complex, a lot longer, to perform ultimately more complicated tasks, which is what we want a program to do. And there was a program in the background that was turning this into the language that the computer could actually understand, right? Later in the history, some languages for specific purpose started being developed, right? So we have SQL kind of language for database programming, HTML, which some people might argue that is not a language, it's a markup, but it is a way of telling a computer how we want information to be presented in a web browser. Things like MATLAB that is used to program and to do machine learning. All of those, they became languages that, and I make it stress here that they are specific purpose ones, because they actually make it a lot easier to perform certain domain-specific tasks. For example, access a database, or insert a record into a database, or present an image in a certain size and a certain position of the screen, by using particular keywords, particular words that in the end translated into much complex code in the background, right? So that was already, you could say that the beginning of low code. It was making it easier for us to design programs by using just very specific words in English or the language of choice, and then turn that into something that the computer could understand, right? So I put that as an example. Is a program, it's a very small program that everybody writes when first learning computing, the Hello World program, written in C. Behind those few words there, behind those few lines of code, there's a huge amount of logic going on to handle the screen, to handle the input devices, to understand what that string Hello World, not understand what it means, but understand what to do with it, etc. So I guess people might argue this is not low code, this is actually code, but it is already showing a much simpler way of telling the computer what to do rather than having to do the assembly language that we saw before, right? Or even worse, coding in ones and zeros directly. Modern machine learning platforms allow you to do amazing things with very, very few lines of, still we could call it code, but it is doing a whole lot of calculations and permutations and a whole lot of work just by using a few words, like that little sample that I put in there, right? So again, it might not qualify as low code, but it is much simpler way of doing something, right? Of getting a program run. If you can understand this slide, then sorry, if you cannot understand these jokes on this slide, maybe you are in the right forum. These are technical jokes. Maybe not very funny, but it was the only ones that I could find that were royalty free. Basically, what we are trying to do by using no-code and low-code tools or platforms is get our ideas into a computer and into our final users, which in the end is our goal, without necessarily having to get the support of programmers. Now, what's wrong with programmers? Absolutely nothing. Programmers are some of the smartest and coolest people on earth. However, they are a scarce resource. They are expensive. They can be moody. They can be stubborn. And we don't always want to pass our ideas through a third party, right? Another person that is going to translate that into some kind of language that the computer will understand. What we really want is to be able to say, I've got this idea in mind. I've got a mobile application in mind. I have a website in mind that I want this application to perform this very particular business or personal process, automated in some way. And I want to be able to do it myself. I want to design it. I want to drag and drop my ideas, buttons, images, and text. And I want to design this on the fly. And at the end of this design session, I want it to become a program. I want to be able to use it for a real life application, right? Business. So what is no code and low code? Basically means be able to develop a product, mostly a product. It could be a tool of some sort, but a product, let's call it. Mostly on the internet, although there would be low code tools for doing it somewhere else. But right now our lives revolve around internet. So whether we're talking about mobile applications or websites, is basically all through the internet, right? And if we want to get our product to audience, it has to be done through the internet. So low code or no code and internet are pretty much intermingled. And it is not, everything is not necessarily about delivering a product, although it is probably what most people are using low code or no code tools for. However, it's also about automating processes, right? So it could be something that runs completely in the background. It has no user interface, nobody's looking at it, but it is actually performing a task for us in the background overnight, perhaps, and that we were able to define it and to get it running with just basically visual tools. We didn't have to understand a programming language, right? There are many tools, and that's where the low code term comes. There are many tools that are a mix. They're mostly visual, they're mostly no code, so you drag and drop and you design your applications that way. However, they have certain levels where you can go and do more complex things, more amazing things using a little bit of code, right? So they often have hooks, or they allow you to do integrations, so they allow you to put in extra functionality in which you start building probably a little bit of code, but at least you are not having to program the entire product, right? The entire platform, which is where the main thing here is. So that's what low code would mean, right? What is low code or no code used for? It is really ideal for people that have a clever idea about a product or a service or a tool to use at work or personal life, and they want to be able to show this to people, maybe even raise funds by be able to show it rather than just draw it on a Photoshop or on a serviette as people used to do in the past to sell their ideas. So it is ideal to develop MVPs, which is a basic idea of a product that you believe that it does enough to prove the concept and then be able to show it to stakeholders maybe or to people that would eventually lend you some money to develop your idea. It is very useful when you already understand the business model. You have certain ideas of how the business will operate. It's very important that we understand that these are tools for to use a platform to develop the software. It won't necessarily fix for you the marketing, whether it's a good or bad business idea, to actually sell the product, etc. There's a combination of tools that you can use to do that. So at the moment, we're talking mostly of designing the product and getting it to work. And then there has to be obviously a whole lot of other background work being done to get your idea to life and to actually become a business, right? So it won't necessarily make a bad idea good, but at least it lets you view it, use it, you get a much better feeling for how it would work and whether it would be eventually a good idea or not. And also to be able to show it to people so they can understand, right? Now, in many cases, as we will see later on in the demos, in many cases, you will be developing a finished product. You don't have to necessarily call it a prototype. It is actually a working application that will do the job. We'll see that a little bit better later on with examples, right? Why are they so much in topic right now? Why are they a bit of a hype at the moment? Low code and no code is, first of all, we have a huge amount of computer power nowadays. So these tools now are a reality, right? While before it used to take forever to drag and drop something and then get that turned into code, and that code eventually executes so we can view what we are doing. Now we have so much computer power in our hands, in the laptop, in the phone, but also in the cloud, that these kind of things now work instantly, right? So whatever you are putting together, you can view the results straight away. Also, people are becoming a lot more entrepreneurial, right? There's so much happening online with clever people developing products and services that we all are coming up with our own ideas, how we could do something a bit better, or maybe something that nobody has ever tried before. And we think, how come nobody has thought of automating this or putting this kind of service online? And that's happening now because we see the power of internet and we have the reach that internet can have. And a few years back, that probably wasn't so evident. However, we have been using tools, low-code tools, for a long time. Again, you might argue as to whether this is a low-code tool or not, but people and companies have been using Excel for years and years to deliver very, very complex applications and very, very complex models that do amazing things with statistics and charting and database management and a whole lot of things, which Excel was not specifically developed to do. Excel was developed as a generic tool to do calculations and to allow to handling that as a table, et cetera, et cetera. And then people have come up with clever ideas about it, right? And they have been able to share those tools in the company through shared drives and other means. Eventually, this hits a wall, which is, okay, how do I keep control of my versions of Excel? How do I, if everybody's using this Excel spreadsheet around the company, how do I now get all this data together in one place? And that's when you start using cloud versions of spreadsheets and of Excel maybe, or something else, and other tools that allow you to do this now on the cloud, sharing the data, having the data safely stored, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a major improvement on what we have been doing for years, right? The simple fact that we managed to put together an event online by using bits and pieces of Facebook, bits and pieces of Eventbrite, bits and pieces of Zoom, and putting links together and passing them around. Some people might argue, well, that's not low code. You are not delivering a product, but we could be delivering a service, right? We could be delivering a training company, could be putting this together, have frequent webinars actually being charged, and actually deliver a service with absolutely no one single line of code, right? It's just by sharing and using services that are readily available to us online and connecting them cleverly and properly. And so some services could be delivered this way, right? So what we're going to see in the following demos is low code or no code tools or platforms to deliver a wide range of applications, right? So it could be mobile applications, database and productivity applications. Websites is probably one of the most common ones. Handling of documents and signing of documents, emails and marketing, automation of tasks, etc. There is a particular area which is another, it's probably too wide a topic to talk about it tonight, but APIs are another thing that you have to basically keep an eye on and to understand, and eventually you might have to build if you are developing mobile applications and other applications to running devices, small devices, not necessarily on the cloud, not necessarily on the computer. And there are now low-code tools to develop and manage APIs. So there is a world out there that you could actually get into if you want to get into this subject, right? However, you don't have to get so technical. You can still do many things with the low code or no code tools as they exist, right? Enough of me and enough of an introduction. I really want to pass the microphone to Lara Chan-Baker. She's a very busy person. She's a producer of podcasts and books and websites and other things. And she's a writer and copywriter for various companies. She does a lot of help to me in terms of writing, but also helping me with all these tools and get ideas for how I can do my job much better day to day. Lara has a particular aversion to seeing people doing things. In Spanish, we say por las piedritas, so the hardware, right? To do them manually, to use piece of paper, to use spreadsheets all over the place. And for a long time, she's been helping friends automate and use these tools, software tools, to make life easier, right? I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can all say hello to Lara and let her introduce herself, and then we get going with her presentation. Lara, the microphone is yours.
Thank you. It's awesome to be here. As Pedro said, I'm a producer, I'm a copywriter, and a project manager, and I have worn many different hats. I've worked in publishing and advertising and tech, doing all sorts of things. But one of the things that I do across all of that is help people create better systems for whatever it is that they're producing. And for me, that's where a lot of these no-code tools come in. I want to preface this by saying I'm not a coder by any means. I'm interested in that stuff, but I don't know how to do that. I have system skills and design skills, but I have no idea how to write in programming languages. So for me, no-code tools are all about making my work faster and more efficient and being able to create things on my own that I was previously totally unable to. And I think the best thing is about no code is that it's changing entrepreneurship and democratizing a lot of these tools in a really incredible and fascinating way. And this stuff is, on a personal level, I think it's an incredible gateway into learning about more complex things if you do eventually want to get into coding. But the best thing really is that it lets you design, let's say, as Dad was saying, websites or apps or craft videos or work with machine learning or whatever in human language or in drag and drop visual ways, in ways that we can naturally understand without having to have any prior training, at least for most of these tools. Some of them have a bit of a learning curve. So I have about 1 billion trillion tools in my kind of workflow that I use for all different types of clients and projects. Obviously, I can't share 1 billion with you today, so I'm going to share with you some of my absolute favorites, as well as a few that I haven't used, but I'm keeping an eye on because I'm really excited about. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. All right. Now you should be able to, can you see my screen? Awesome. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, first thing I'm going to talk about is Airtable. Now, some of you might use Airtable already. Some of you might not. If you do, if you're already a convert, excuse me, because I'm gonna rave about it a little bit. Airtable is the #1 of all the things that has completely changed my life, the way I work, the way I live. My whole life runs on Airtable. So, and I've converted many clients to using Airtable. Basically, what it is it's essentially spreadsheets on steroids. As you can see here, I've got this list of some of the tools I want to talk about. I've done this in Airtable, and don't worry, I'll share this with you guys later. Actually, let's change the view here. Let's make it a nice gallery view. There we go. Yes, as I said, Airtable is basically this really, it's like spreadsheets on steroids. And basically it lets you create these incredible databases. I've put some notes in here for you guys, to store and manipulate data at scale. And you can then plug that into any other kind of no-code tools, and use that data to create other apps, which I'll show you shortly. But at its very simplest, it's a spreadsheet. So I'm going to show you a little bit, a few of the ways that I use it. Unfortunately, with a lot of these tools that I'm going to talk about today, because I use them for client work, the stuff in them is really confidential, so I can't actually show you, but I'll still try and show you some cool examples of how other people use them. So Airtable is these spreadsheets. One thing I love about Airtable is that it comes with heaps and heaps of different templates. So let's say, for example, let's look in event planning. My internet's being a bit slow, but for example, you could do it for a more personal thing like wedding planning or an esports conference, whatever it might be. Let's have a look at this template for wedding planning. So this is not going to do its thing. There we go.
Are you trying to tell me something, Lara, about weddings?
Definitely not. So really simple one, people have put in here like the venues and the dates and the lists of the guests, and they're using it to do the seating charts. Very simple stuff. Now, the way I use Airtable is for a billion different things. And I'll show you a couple now. So one that I can show you is, let's say this, very simple here. I use this for a podcast that I produce. What I've done is I created this spreadsheet that's got here really simple, just like name, job title, company overview, the bio, whatever, right? All the information that I want about my podcast guests. I have things set to certain types. So that's set as an attachment. These is set as text, right? So it knows what kind of input I'm putting in there. But what I've done is then that Airtable can turn that all into a form that I then send to my guests. They fill all of this out. And when they fill it out, it automatically comes back into my guest info table. So I have all that there. So that's one of the ways that I use Airtable. Another way, and you're going to think I'm a little bit crazy when you see this, but as for example, let me see where I put it. When I was buying a car, I created a really insane Airtable of all of the cars that I was interested in that I saw on car sales, the links to them, the year they were made, when I inquired about them, the kilometers they had. And I used this to decide how I was going to buy my car. And basically I was able to tick different things and filter by, so here I've filtered things to show which cars I'm going to inspect, which seller they're at, all sorts of things, right? Now, this is a really, really basic view of Airtable. You can do some really crazy stuff with it, which I can't go into today, but I highly recommend you look into it. So I'm going to move on to the next one. All right, actually, I'm going to go back to this list view. So the next one I'll talk about, again, Notion is really popular. So you may have worked with Notion yourself already, but in case you haven't, I want to talk about it a bit today. So Notion is basically this all-in-one workspace where you can write and plan and collaborate, get organized. It allows you to take notes, add tasks, manage projects, all sorts of things. It's kind of like a document, but times a billion. And I'll show you a couple of ways that I use Notion. So this, again, talking about that podcast that I produce, here is, without showing anything too confidential, is what I use as my internal production thing, and I use it with my team. You can see here I share with a whole lot of people. And what I've done in here is I've created this page, and inside I've got these subpages, and it works. For example, I can add some stuff in here, exactly like I'm typing a document, right? Which is pretty amazing. And then I can add all sorts of things like a quote. I could add a new table in here, a calendar, an image, whatever I like, right? So for example, let's see, I've got here my release schedule that I've made. And in here, it's got my, when things are happening. I have this recording and editing schedule, which I've got in a calendar that is like this kind of view, so I can scroll across and see when things are happening. And I can share all of this with my clients. But the other thing that's really cool is that I can share this to the web publicly, and I can essentially turn this into a website. So people make some really amazing websites using this. I use it mostly for internal stuff, but you can make some really, really cool public facing websites using something like this. So, the other thing I want to talk about, this is from someone else. I don't use this, but someone has put this together, which is a personal kind of home-based notion. And I love this idea of how you could use it in your personal life. Someone's put this template together, which you could just use and, you know, change however you want, where they've basically put in the things that are important to them. For example, their sort of wellness stuff, culture stuff. Let's say I go in here, and in this food section, they could note down, let's say, recipes. This is just a template, so there's not a lot of information in here, but it's a really, basically, it's a really simple way to create very complex wikis, to store a whole lot of information, keep a lot of notes, and collaborate with people. Okay, so next one I'm going to chat about is Dscript. So totally different thing here. Dscript is a complete game changer. I do a lot of, as you've seen, podcast production and audio editing, and Dscript has completely revolutionized the way that I work and the way that my clients work as well. So normally I would have worked in something like Adobe Audition to edit all of my audio. I would have worked somewhere else to do my transcripts. I would work somewhere else to do video. Everything was really separate and a lot more time consuming. And Dscript is this incredible, like, AI powered audio editing and now video editing as well app that lets you edit audio as though it were a Word document. And to show you what that means, let's see, I might see if I can share my, I'm going to share something else with you guys. All right. So can you see Dscript? Can someone tell me if that's working? Cool, awesome.
It is. Yep.
It's working.
So, for example, this is a copy of a podcast that I was working on recently. And here, I've got here my project files. Oh, it's going to run slow because I've got lots of recordings in here. I drag and drop them in and it automatically transcribes them for me. Now, the transcriptions aren't always perfect, but what it lets me do then is I can edit my audio. I don't know if this is going to work because it's streaming. It's a bit slow. But let's say I'm listening along to my audio. Let it load. It works a lot faster than this when you're not trying to stream it to people.
I'm Lara, the editor and producer of Duct Tape.
Okay, so you can hear
Over 10
some of the-
episodes, I'll introduce you to a few of my teammates from...
Okay, so for example, let's say I want to take this and I go, actually, I don't like this section. I'm going to delete it. And I can delete it based on the text, but it's actually editing the audio, which is like, if you've ever done any audio editing, film editing is insane in terms of how you can use it. That's a really basic view of it, but it means that you can essentially edit your entire, without having to look at, instead what you'd normally be looking at is just sound waves. You can edit all of your audio based on this, and then you can output podcasts, videos, other sorts of audio for ads or whatever it might be. It's really incredible. So I'm going to close that down and I'm going to share my other screen again. Okay, moving on. We were talking before about web builders, and web builders are like website builders rather, are definitely one of the main places that you find no code tools. There are absolutely millions of them. You would be familiar probably with things like WordPress and Squarespace already. Squarespace in particular, absolutely great option. I wanted to talk today instead about a couple of the ones you might not have heard of, a few things that are a bit newer or a bit more specialist. So some of the things I'm really interested in at the moment are, for example, this newer platform called EditorX. If you've ever used Wix before, which is a really simple no-code drag and drop website builder, this is actually built by them, but it's designed for, this is made more for designers or web professionals, even developers as well, to give you like real proper creative control in the way that you don't usually get with these sorts of drag and drop builders. So you use it kind of in the same way that you might use something like Photoshop sort of, or InDesign more, but to create fully coded websites. without having to actually write any of the underneath code. And it has a really powerful CMS built in, which is really, really valuable for someone like me who deals with a lot of content. So if you've used Webflow, Editor X is quite similar alternative. So speaking of Webflow, another one, now this isn't exactly a new tool. People, like, I think everyone I know uses Webflow. Everyone in this kind of doing these sorts of projects is using Webflow as, again, the kind of next level up above, or quite a few levels up above things like Squarespace or WordPress. Basically building fully custom websites in a really visual way. So you're dragging and dropping, you're using these kinds of really visual tools that people are used to using in design software, again, to build and publish fully functioning, fully coded websites without having to actually know how to do any of that and to collaborate with your team on doing it. It's really amazing. Okay. Still in that category is ReadyMag, which is one that I haven't used for a while, but it's really great. Let's accept the cookies. This is also a website builder, but with a slightly different focus. So what's awesome about there being so many of these services now is that you can really pick the one that's geared towards the kind of thing that you're making, rather than only having WordPress as you used to have. So this one is really quite specific for something that you want, like for people who want something really, really design-led, full control over the creative, but still in a really simple, easy to use way. And it works really, really well for things like portfolios, or like anything kind of editorial where the beautiful typography and the beautiful photography are really important. So really gorgeous stuff. Yeah, and websites and things. And again, it's all drag and drop. Here's some examples of some things that have been made. We can look at some like company websites. All sorts of company websites. And all of these are made, they're absolutely beautiful. And they're all made with this like drag and drop tool, no coding involved whatsoever, unless people want to add some extra custom stuff, but it's, yeah, all automated for you. Really, really amazing. Okay. The last two I'll talk about in terms of web builders are Card. This is the total other end. It's so simple, really, really basic. This is for creating one-page websites. So maybe you have a folio you want, or a resume or something you want to share online, or maybe you have a landing page that you want for something that you're launching, or whatever it might be, a one-page website that's fully responsive. So it's going to fit to all different types of screens. Really, really, really easy way to create one-page websites. It's like so easy, I think, that my like grandma could use it. So really, really lovely option there. And it's totally free is the other thing that's really important to mention, because of course, a lot of these services come with paid plans. That said, it's a lot cheaper than engaging a developer to do any of this stuff, but something to keep in mind. The last one I will chat about in that category is Pory. And these kinds of tools, there's lots more of them now. And we'll look at some for mobile apps in a minute, but Pory is similar to those other things I was talking about, where it's like drag and drop, building websites. But what it does is it allows you to build apps based on all of the information that you have in a spreadsheet like Airtable. This one is specific to Airtable. So for example, if we looked at one of those ones before, like my car spreadsheet, I don't know why I would want to build a website about that, but if I wanted to build a website that displayed, that was a directory of all those cars that I'd explored and that information, I could, in 2 minutes, connect that with Pory and design a really beautiful website that used all that information. So you can use it for things like member platforms, job boards, for event directories or catalogs. Again, it's a way to use a really, really simple database and turn it into a fully functioning web app. Really, really, really cool. It's amazing the amount of time that kind of thing saves. Pory is really, really great for MVPs, for building prototypes of things. If you have a quick idea that you want to test, it's a really quick way to do it. All right, so moving into a totally different area. One of the things I was working on with a client last year, and something a lot of people have been doing, especially in lockdown, is starting to sell online courses. And there are tons of services now that help you do this, but two of my favorites are Pory, one here. So basically, again, it's everything that you need within one platform to build an online course, to sell that online course, and to manage it, to manage all your what do you call them, students, and webinars and things as well, all sorts of stuff, with a custom website. But then it's really, really geared. Of course, you could create a website with Squarespace or something, but this is really, really, really geared to delivering courses and selling courses. So you guys can look more into that one if you would like. One that I've been using a lot with a client recently is called Kajabi. Similar thing, it helps you create and deliver and run courses, and monetize that, most importantly, and then manage your customers and push out like marketing campaigns. They've got really, really great tutorials. Again, the whole point is that you don't need to know how to do any of this stuff. These systems walk you through it. So to show you the other end of what that might look like, let me show you. This is a website that was created on Kajabi for a friend of mine who sells 3D modeling courses, right? And as you can see, it's a regular website, but also you've got these courses, which again, you could do this front end stuff, you could do in other apps, but where you see that it's really geared towards courses in particular is when you get into this stuff. So for example, if we go into one of the courses that they sell, we've got all this stuff that's really geared towards actually selling the courses. You know, the course syllabus stuff. Again, you could build this in any website builder, but this is really geared specifically for it. Where you really see it is that then, let's say I've bought the courses, I've logged in, and now I've got my library. And so what Kajabi does, and Pory as well, is that, for example, I can go into my course and it's got all this built in for actually delivering the course. So for example, I can watch my course stuff here. I've got the rest of the modules built here. And my client didn't have to build any of this. I mean, he made the videos, he obviously recorded the course, but other than that, all of this structure to deliver a course and help someone complete it and, you know, do a lesson, that was all done through Kajabi without any coding whatsoever. Really cool. All right. So how much time we got? We got a bit more. All right. Next one I'm going to talk about is Canva. Now, again, a lot of you may have used Canva. It's really, really, really popular for a reason. It's been growing hugely over the last few years, but I wanted to talk about it because it's a completely indispensable tool for me. I used to, like a lot of designers, work a lot in Photoshop and InDesign and Illustrator, and those things definitely still have their place. But for someone like me, who I don't do that much custom design work anymore, and what I'm trying to do is get teams to all be creating stuff themselves. So they're not necessarily designers. And so this is where something like Canva comes in that's really incredible. So what Canva does is it is a fully in browser, like web-based tool to help you create visual assets of all sorts. So that might be social media posts or presentations or posters or videos or whatever kind of marketing stuff. It might be an email header, all sorts of things, right? And so, for example, I could pick a template of any sort. Let's say I want to find templates that have to do with events, let's say event flyers, and I can jump in here and I can find, they've got billions of templates, which are, some are great, some are terrible, but that's all right. You find the ones that are good. And let's just pick one for the sake of it. And then I can go in and I can fully customize this template and output it however I need in all the different sizes that I need, with any animation or whatever it might be. I can, for example, add elements like, and it's really, really simple. If you tried to make sense of something like Photoshop, whatever, again, which is all build it yourself, this provides all the drag and drop elements for you. You know, I have photos and graphics, and I can upload my own things. As you can see here, I use this a lot. So I've got lots of different things uploaded in here. It's connected with Unsplash, which provides stock photography that you can use with your account, which is amazing. Text and whatever else it might be. And I can, you know, just go in here and edit this. And I want to, you know, Exatec, whatever it might be. And just download that or share it somewhere. And yeah, it's pretty amazing. I use it. I'll show you how I use it a lot. For example, all this stuff that I used to do in Photoshop is now a billion times easier for me to just do here in Canva. For example, when I'm creating stuff for the podcast, I have these templates that I've made, and I can just go in and make one for each episode, and I can just duplicate this, and I'll change the photo that I put in here and change the text and then export it and all the things that I want. So some of the ways that I use that, really, really valuable. Okay, so next thing I'll jump into in a similar kind of vein is not that. Here we go. Let me. All right, so Biteable is a really easy and cheap way to create customizable video content with templates. Again, this is amazing for people who don't know how to or don't want to use traditional video editing software. So let's like Premiere or something. Or if you don't have the budget or the time to engage a professional, there are services like this. Again, there are always going to be instances where it's way better to engage a professional. If I didn't think that, I wouldn't have a job, you know, but these are really awesome tools for people to do it themselves when they don't have that budget. So for example, they have really, really cool templates to make really beautiful videos. You might make an explainer video for your new product. It might be an ad for your company. It might be, I don't know, something for your client to present something that you've made, whatever it might be. They have a huge library of animation and illustration assets and video assets that you can use for free to make these beautiful videos, again, with zero coding and in a really drag and drop way. So not, you're not using like really complex keyframing software and whatever. It's you drag some text here, you put the picture there. You've got these sort of templates to help you make it look lovely if you don't have the kind of design skills to do it yourself necessarily. It's something I recommend to clients a lot when they don't necessarily have the capacity to engage someone to do something fully custom. So let's get, I'm just going to have a look through. There's a lot of stuff to get through, so I'm going to pick some of my favorites. Let's talk about app building, because I think that's an area that a lot of people are interested in when it comes to no code. So Adelo is really, really popular. It's a really amazing app builder, like mobile apps, and it makes putting them together really as easy as it is to put together a slide deck. So if you can put together a PowerPoint, you can put together an app using Adelo. And it lets you turn your ideas into a fully functioning app that you can download on the, App Store without doing any coding whatsoever. And they have really good templates and support. And again, it's all drag and drop. So we can look at that showcase here. See, made in Adelo. I'm going to actually look at what can you make. So people make all sorts of apps, including all sorts of things. And there's all sorts of integrations usually. So people can purchase stuff, people can enter information, people can, I don't know, look through directories or whatever it might be. These like community hubs, booking classes for something. This is a really, really low cost, quick, simple way to build an app for your idea or for your business without engaging programmers and designers and all sorts of other people. Or perhaps you just have a designer and you want them to you know, to do this without doing all the coding, to do it really quickly and to just prototype something or your final thing. It's wild to me now. I think like it's hard to impress like how, you know, just a few years ago, it was totally impossible for this stuff to exist. And the fact that we can do this these days just changes the system enormously. Quickly, if anyone uses Figma for their design work, or if any of the designers do, Figma itself is an incredible design platform, fully web-based design platform, but Bravo is a way to turn those designs into native apps, meaning apps that you know, exist on the App Store that someone can actually download or purchase. So this is particularly for someone who, it's not like a drag and drop so much system. It's if someone wants to create beautiful, picture perfect, final stage designs in an app like Figma or XD, they can then take that static 2D design and turn that into a functioning app, again, without doing any coding, which just cuts out an enormous part of the process that used to exist. Okay, and the last one I'll show in this category, again, there are lots of apps that do this, or lots of platforms that do this rather, but the last one I wanted to show was Glide, which is a really lovely app, platform rather, that similar to, we saw Pory before, that let you turn Airtable databases into websites. This is one that lets you turn Google Sheets, so essentially Excel, but Google Sheets into apps. And I've used it a few times. It's pretty incredible how it works. I'll show you very quickly. I'm logged into my personal one, not my work one. So I see what I've got in here. Okay, this is very old and very rough, but as you can see, this is how we really quickly were prototyping an app for my partner's business. He runs a gym. He wanted really simply an app where his gym members could look at the workouts when they weren't in the gym and get some ideas and, you know, do some stuff at home, especially like during COVID. So we really quickly whipped this up in Glide. This is an app that you could actually download. People could tap and use. Again, it's not all fully filled out, but for example, they could go into the, let's see, this cardio app section. We could see this workout and they could click on the image. This is this workout that he's designed. We've got here basically how it works. They can add comments. It's really simple. You can do a lot more complex things with Glide, but we wanted to make something really simple and just really quickly prototype it. Again, we didn't spend any money on this. We just spent time. So for a small business like my partner's gym to be able to do this without spending a dime is really, really cool. Again, time for sure, and some skills, but it's really low learning curve for this kind of thing. And then you could actually publish it, you know. Again, you do have to pay if you want to publish it as like a downloadable app, but you can do other ways to do it. I won't go into it now, but you can have a look into it. And they've recently released some new updates that are really, really cool. So that is Glide. All right. Moving into some other things. Okay, I'm going to look at some fun stuff. Something I'm really interested in is machine learning. I love to read about it. I love to write about it in the journalism work that I do, but I don't know how to actually, you know, program machines. I don't know how to create neural networks. I don't know anything like that. Some of the tools in the no-code zone that I'm really interested in are ones that let people kind of start to play with machine learning, and whether it's just for play or to actually utilize it in your business or your projects. I find this a really interesting space in terms of accessibility and democratizing these tools. So one famous one and really fun one is Teachable Machine, which is by Google. And it is built on their TensorFlow, which is their system for machine learning. Not important. Basically, what it does is it lets everyday people like you and me train machine learning models. And that sounds really complicated, but it's really, really simple the way they've done it. It's incredible if you know what actually goes into this underneath. I'll show you the way that some people have used it. So one thing here's a really simple video of someone very quickly training a machine learning model using Teachable Machine.
Hey, I'm Dale. This is Making with ML, and today you're going to build a machine learning model right here, right now, and in under 10 minutes. I'm going to show you how to use a tool called Teachable Machines to train a model from your browser really fast. Let's get to it. So today I thought it would be fun to train a model that recognizes letters that I make with my body, like A, B, C. But for starters, I'm just going to train the model to recognize the letters Y, M, C, A. I'm going to use Teachable Machines to do this. It's one of the coolest ML tools out there because it allows you to train a model that's for photos or for audio or pose without writing any code, and it runs straight in your browser. All you need to get started is a computer with a webcam. So first, go to teachablemachine.withgoogle.com and click Get Started. From here, you can see there are 3 different types of models you can train: image, audio, and pose, but we'll make a pose project. Now, the idea with machine learning is to train a computer to find patterns in data. So step 1 is to collect training data. In the UI, you can collect training data right from your webcam. So I'm going to create a bunch of examples of me making the letter Y with my body. First, create a new class with whatever you want to detect, in this case, the letter Y. So as you can see, the UI is already detecting my pose and my facial expressions using a pre-trained model. But what I really wanted to do is recognize the letters that I'm making. So let's take some example pictures. You want to take pictures of yourself from lots of different angles and distance from the camera, which will prevent the model from overfitting on features about the room or the camera angles. Now I'll collect some data for M, C, and A. Once you're done collecting data, click Train Model. When you hit this button, TensorFlow.js actually trains a new neural network from data right in your browser, so do not close this window. Your computer is doing a lot of work under the hood. Click Advanced and Under the Hood to learn more about how it works. Once your model is done training, you can try it out right here in the browser. It works! The best thing about Teachable Machines is that it's really easy to export your model. You can either download it as a TensorFlow model file, or you can have Teachable Machines host it for you, and they even give you this nice shareable link. Plus, there's a nice JavaScript code sample that you can use to easily.
All right, that's enough on that for now. But basically, I am really excited about what Teachable Machine allows people to do that, again, was previously restricted to, super tech dudes or guys in lab coats, it's really, really exciting. And people are making some very, very cool stuff worth exploring. Okay, some of my other favorites. And Dad, you'll cut me off, right, when I need to. Is that right? Cool.
I would never do that, Lara, but yes.
Pardon?
I would never interrupt you, but yes, I will.
No, please do cut me off when we're running out of time, because I could keep going forever. Okay, another one I'm going to look at, which is perfect for this multilingual audience that we have here. And I'm just going to, if it's okay, I'm just going to turn off my camera for a moment because my, hold on one second. I just need to save my battery. So give me 2 seconds and I will be back. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, can you still see my screen? Is that still sharing? Yeah, lovely.
Yes.
So Weglot is a really, really cool tool that allows you to basically translate your entire website, your business's website, but just really, really easily in over 100 languages. So it's so, like, again, I can't really, for me, it's so hard to actually articulate why this is so incredible and how, like, what a difference this can make for businesses. Instead of creating whole new websites to serve different countries, you can have use something like this to, to basically translate all of your existing native content. The other thing that is fascinating is that it will then translate all of your stuff using like best SEO practices in that language as well. And you can work with professional translators through the service, but you can also just do it automatically. And it translates it really beautifully and cleanly. And this is something that previously was really difficult to do. Obviously, Google has their own like Google Translate kind of built into Chrome, which is often not very good. And also a lot of people aren't using Chrome. So really, really cool way to do something like that. Now, I'm going to share Typeform. A lot of you, this is not going to be new to a lot of you. You may have used Typeform before, but Typeform is a brilliant platform that lets you create really beautifully designed and really intelligent forms. You'll see a lot of companies using this all over the place, major companies. And I've used it a billion times to create all sorts of things. Even on the free plan, it's really good, but the paid plan is better. Now, to show you some examples of the kind of forms and surveys that people make, there's quite a few I can't show you because they're, again, confidential, but I'll show you one that I had made, again, for my partner's business. So he needed to do an order for clothing that he sells through the gym. So we made this form that basically got all the information that we needed in lovely language and just really cleanly designed. So asking people for their emails. And then the first thing was that you're asking people what style of top or hoodie did they want to order, right? These are their options. Based on what they answered there, you can see here, if I go into logic, there is, you can see based on, this is a bit complicated just looking at it here, but I promise it's simple to use. If they answered this question with, if they answered the question, what style of hoodie do you want, with the answer A, it would then take them to X sort of next question. So to see how that actually looks, let's say they wanted this unisex hoodie, it would take them to, you've chosen a unisex hoodie. What color, material, and print would you like? And then they would choose whichever one they wanted, and it would take them to the next thing. For example, these are the available sizes for the unisex hoodie. Have a look and then hit enter. And they would continue, and we'd go into here, which size would you like, right? So it's a form, but it's a form that's intelligent and it's designed really well. And then the best thing is that that can then be integrated into a whole lot of other things. So this could be embedded into his webpage. It can be sent just as a link for people to fill out. It could be emailed to people. And then what we did as well, if I go back into Airtable, we had automatically, we had it set up that all the answers from this form got automatically pulled into, I don't know if it's that one or this one, but let's say this one, into this Airtable, so one of my databases, which had all of this information, which I made different views for, so grouped by print color, grouped by apparel type, and then this one I made for the printers. I basically was able to send the people who were going to print the logos and stuff onto the artwork this spreadsheet so they could look at exactly who had what colors and blah, blah. So it was a really, really great way of automating something that in the past, when he's done this by hand or asking people what they want, just getting them to email him, and then he's tried to write them down and take note, every single time he's ended up missing some of the stock or buying extra stock or getting things in the wrong sizes or something gets missed along the way. And for me, it was about finding a system that could automate this stuff for him and make sure that everything was going to come out perfectly. So that's that. Another random fun one, which this doesn't necessarily have a work purpose, but it's something that I really enjoy. And I think no-code tools are also about tools that you just enjoy using, right? It's not just about work. This is Imatone. I have downloaded it. I haven't yet used it because I haven't found time to do it, but I really want to. This is an incredible, this was just built by a person who wanted to do this. It is a really amazing tool that lets you play any instrument, digital instrument. So let's say you're in GarageBand, something like that. Play any instrument with your voice and create music. So what does that look like? I'll show you with this.
There's no setup required. You just start by launching Imatone. Then you launch your favorite MIDI-enabled music program. Then you sing into the microphone, and just like that, your voice is automatically converted into notes as if you were playing them yourself.
So again, I don't necessarily have a work use for this, but I find this really amazing. And I like seeing, for me, it's ways that people who don't have necessarily like coding skills or music skills can use other tools that they do have, like their voice, to create something new. And you could do it with any instrument that you want. All right. Okay. Next one I'm going to look at is voice flow. So voice flow is something that I was introduced to last year by a client. I was creating some smart speaker skills for Amazon and for Alexa, Amazon and for Google for their smart speakers. So it was games and smart assistants, and I was writing the scripts for those. And one thing that this team used was called voice flow, which helps you design and prototype and publish these chatbots or voice apps without writing any code, which is really, really quite amazing. So basically, it's this visual way again of writing and creating conversations, and you're essentially like mapping where each answer will go, and you can create these incredible let's say chatbots or voice experiences without again actually coding anything. So you're just typing in what you want it to do. This platform walks you through how the actual logic and connections should work and all of that stuff, and you can really quickly prototype and actually export chatbots or voice assistants or whatever it might be. Fascinating tool. How are we going for time? Should I wrap up?
Yeah, probably, so we can have a little bit of time for questions. And
yeah, totally. Well, the thing is that we're going to share this with you guys, this what's it called, Airtable, this database, so you guys can have a look at any of these tools if you want to. I've put notes in here for you on what they are. I've also included a little, this is subjective, but like learning curve, how difficult they are. So the more flags there are here is like, I think how kind of difficult they are to use for people who don't have any experience with this stuff. Again, a lot of them, if you have like design skills or you've used other kind of software like this, you'll be absolutely fine. And the best thing about these kind of modern tools is that almost all of them have really incredible support documentation and tutorials, so that even if you have absolutely no experience creating, let's say, a chatbot, that you can absolutely go in and do this yourself without any kind of coding expertise. So yeah, I'll leave it there and we'll share this with you at the end. But thank you for listening to me talk about tools for a really long time.
Thank you very much, Lara. That has been really amazing. I want to show just a slide of some of the resources that you have shared with us. We will somehow get to people that are interested on this, the links to the Airtable database that Lara created with some of her amazing tools.
I can put it in the chat right now, but we can also share.
Yeah, I think we'll put it on the chat in a second. And then we'll, there's other resources there to websites that explain what no code is, or that give list of applications or platforms rather that can be used for developing. I think what we wanted you to gain out of this conversation is obviously to see the spread of tools that are, and show off Lara, that I'm very proud of. But I think it's a good example of someone that knows her business and doesn't have the time to spend coding or talking to programmers to see if they can possibly come with the right solution for her of the idea that she has in her mind, right? She can go and click and drag and do things. Now, some of the tools look complicated, and some of the tools are complicated. There are now lots of experts out there on low code or no code platforms that can help people develop and bring product to life. Right now, it might sound a bit contradicting to say, well, I'm supposed to be able to do it myself, and why should I be paying someone else? I think to pay someone that is at the same, first of all, that understands the tool, understands the possibilities, but also maybe have the design skills, the copywriting skills, the better understanding of what can be done with this particular tool, or even what tool to use for your specific purpose, maybe is a way to start while you get more familiar with the advanced features that some of these tools might present, right? So we'll definitely share these links in the chat in a second. What I'd like to do, because we are not that many in this group, if you don't mind, Lara, to hang around for a few minutes to see whether we have some questions from the audience. And if you guys want to turn on your videos and your microphones, and if you have questions, please, by all means.
Of course, yeah. If anyone has any.
Anybody has some doubt as to whether a particular idea that you have in mind could be brought to life with some of these tools? I saw some of you taking notes. So obviously you have ideas of certain services or products. I think what Lara tried to do was to give a spread of possibilities, and training, for example, is a big thing, right? We all are experts on something, whether cooking or writing or dancing or some sport or whatever it might be. And to deliver training courses is one way of doing business online, right? And if there are platforms that help you get your online course up there in full color and sound and with all the features and e-commerce, etc., then you only have to worry about the content, which is obviously the biggest part of the whole thing, but you have far less worries, right? Beto, did you want to ask something?
Yes, I have one question. For my swimming club, they are trying to make an app. Something I saw, like the ones that you mentioned, using Airtable or Google spreadsheets to then convert it to an app. Do you know anyone that worked with Office? We got Office for free because it was a non-for-profit, but I don't know if you have any recommendations for.
Yes, let me just find the name of it, because I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's a good one that works with Office that I haven't used because I like pretty much never work with Office anymore, but let me find it for you. Hold on one second and I will send it to you. So it is called, where have I put it? Sorry, I have massive lists of like hundreds of tools that I use. So it's a bit, it gets a bit crazy trying to dig through them all. All right, I will look to the list as well, yeah? Pardon?
We can add it to the list later as well, yeah?
Yes, and I will find it for you and pop it in the chat as well if anyone wants to keep asking any other questions. I will find that and put it in there for you.
Thank you.
No worries.
I do. Lara, how do you do to keep up like with all these resources? What I mean, like, how do you do to like be, how do you say that? Yeah, like to keep up.
To find them or, yeah, I mean, I've been interested in these things forever. So along the way, a lot of these are things that I've collected like slowly over the years. Also, because a lot of these are developed by other companies, like, for example, like a company like MailChimp or like Google, a lot of them produce other tools like this. So when I follow those companies and their newsletters, I get these sorts of things. There are a few tools, a few newsletters, like email newsletters that I get that I really, really love. There's one called Dense Discovery that is run by a guy who used to work for Adobe, amazing Australian guy. And he shares a lot of amazing software and apps and tools of all sorts, not just no-code tools, but lots of things. There's another place called Recommendo, which also shares tools, again, all sorts of tools. So that might be an actual physical tool, or it might be a piece of software, and all sorts of things. But I keep a huge bookmark list. Whenever I come across anything that I find interesting and want to look into, I just bookmark it in my tools folder. And I try to leave little notes for myself on what they are. And then I find always that when I'm looking for something, I've got a particular client who's doing a particular thing, I can go back through this big list of tools and find something to recommend or to use. And I'm in the process actually of building, because I have this huge database of tools that I use for myself, I'm actually in the process of building a public database for people to look through all the tools that I like and the recommendations that I have. as a way to help other people find really good digital tools, not just no code stuff, but all sorts of tools and websites that I love that I use in my work. So yeah, I'm in the process of doing that, but don't have it ready yet. So, but if anyone wants to find me on LinkedIn or anything, I'll post things there when I get to it. Should be ready in a couple of months.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you, Len. Anybody else has a question? If you would like to ask later, we have put in there the email of Exatec as well, info@exatec.org.au. You can always write to them, and we'll get you questions to Lara or try to answer ourselves. Anybody else? Any comment or?
Just to thank Lara. This is fantastic. This is yeah, really, really good. I consider myself tech savvy, and I love using tools. And today I actually learned a lot. So yeah, thank you very much.
Can I just say something too? Sorry, we are in a car. That's what we put the camera. I just want to say that I find it's very generous of you to share all this knowledge and the research work you've done over the years with these sort of tools. And thank you for being so kind to run this workshop for Exatec Australia.
That's so nice of you. That's really so nice. And honestly, there's nothing more than I love than sharing this stuff. I do this stuff because I find it fun to research tools. I know that makes me a big loser, but I find it really fun. And it comes in handy. And as Pedro was saying, that I use it in my work, but also with my friends. And I hate seeing people do things the hardest way. It really frustrates me when I know there are tools out there that can really help people, whether it's improve their businesses or sell more or just make their lives easier. So yeah, I'm very happy to share, and I'm so glad that it was useful and not just me rambling for an hour, because I was worried about that.
Thank you, Lara. I would say, obviously, thank you to Lara for her time. Being her dad, I can see how busy she is every single day. She's got projects on her table all the time, changing jobs at the moment and doing a whole lot of things. And she's so busy that I hesitated on asking her to put yet one more project on her lap. But it's the power of the dad, I guess. I get priority over some of her other projects, and she actually did very kindly accept this challenge. Thank you, Lara. I cannot help you enough. I think I was really keen on sharing your knowledge. You share with me every day, which is great. But to be able to share that with the people of Exatec and the people that follow Exatec, I think has been really amazing. I'm very grateful to you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm very glad, and it was really fun to be a part of. I'm sorry if my camera's going off. My computer is about to run out of battery. So I need to plug it in.
That's all right. But thank you for that. I'm going to stop the recording in a second. Any last second questions or anything like that? Otherwise, we'll wrap up. And thank you, everybody, for being here. Those in Melbourne, I know that you are about to run out of the door at midnight. Enjoy your freedom tonight, and we'll catch up soon, hopefully.
Thank you, Pedro. Thank you, Lara.
Thank you, Beto.
Thank you very much, Pedro and Lara. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pau. Thanks. By the way, thank you, Andy and Pau, for your help on setting all this up in social media and all the designs and everything else, and Arlene as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro and Lara. Thank you so much. It was really, really useful.
I'm so glad. It's great.
Thank you. Muchas gracias por organizar. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. See you.